So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a conversation here, and we'll give you also certainly the chance to jump if you have any questions. And we're going to talk about last mile delivery. How many of you have bought something online the last 2 weeks? Can you raise your hand? Okay. Last month? Okay, almost everybody. So we all are consumers of last mile delivery services, even if we don't necessarily think about this. And what we're going to do the emphasis today on is really the topic around sustainability and innovation in last mile, which even if you are not in this business necessarily, we should all care about, because at the end of the day, it has a huge impact on the environment and also has huge impact on traffic and cities. So Eyal, do you want to tell us a bit about Simply Route, maybe? Let's start there, what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. So we're based in Latam mainly. Just moved to the US. I moved to Miami. Also in Europe, so we have an office in Barcelona. So what we do is exactly the last mile deliveries, but we don't do the hardware, right? We are not doing the deliveries. So that's like always the first question I get, right? So you are like DHL? No. What we are doing is the software. So why do we need software? So we need software exactly to optimize, and we are going to talk a bit about it later. But we are doing the software to be able to plan the deliveries. So you think like the deliveries, it's really easy things to plan. So I'm going like point to point. So we all have been using also like Uber Eats, right? And in Latam, Rappi, and we have different companies. So you see like point to point, as you have one delivery, you can track the delivery, everything works like perfect. So you can get your food in 60 minutes and sometimes earlier. But when you have different multi-points and you have different conditions and you have traffic and you have weather and you can imagine in Latam, you have much more complication, right? In the US, maybe less or maybe different conditions. So you need to put all those conditions in a system and be able to plan it. So finally, our goal is to be able to say, okay, Nabil, you will get your product between hopefully 9 and 9:10, right? And then you can track it. And then you can understand exactly when and how and maybe why are you going to get the product. So that's the software we are doing. So we built our own algorithm, machine learning, a lot of data. We have more than 1,000 clients. So each one of the customers is like a use case different. So we put everything in a big machine, develop a huge algorithm. It's huge, but it's really fast to use, really easy to use. And then we can have smart planning in the cities.
That's great. So we have a software entrepreneur, and we have also, on my side, I lead e-commerce solutions at DHL globally. So we do also the fulfillment and last mile delivery, where some of it is asset-based and some of it is with third-party assets. And so I think we're going to get like a very interesting conversation here between the startup world and also the large organizations. So maybe let's start, Eyal, with the topic of the core topic. What are some of the key innovations that we see today, generally speaking, and then we'll deep dive on sustainability?
Yeah, so of course we have seen electric cars and we have seen drones, right? And we have seen a lot of innovation in terms of like I call it hardware. It's hardware and software, right? But in terms of vehicle and truck. And then, of course, you can tell a lot of details about it. In our world, what we have seen, a good example and good data, only 5% of the fleet of our customers, and we have more than 1,000 customers, are electric cars. So what we are trying to do is like, okay, we have like a challenge, right, in the future. So we are going to use drones and we are going to use electric cars. What we can do today? So, and I'm going to ask you later what you can do, and I know you're doing a lot of things. But what we are doing today, it's like trying to put everything in the software and try to optimize. So we try with our intelligence to put less trucks in the street. We try to optimize so each one of them will know exactly when and how we need to travel. And so less contamination. We are trying to give data to the cities and to the government so they can plan smart city based on our data and our intelligence. So that's what we are seeing today. From your side, I know that DHL also have like at least 4 innovation centers in the world. So maybe you can tell us a little bit what you're doing in terms of innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the end of the day, what we try to really focus on is to be offering options and innovation that are really solving a problem, right? And so what you see today is more and more, and we are all consumers here, but more and more consumers want more flexible model. So traditionally, last mile was from a distribution center to a consumer door. Now what you see is you find many, many models, what we call out-of-home deliveries, which is parcel lockers, as an example, or places where you can pick up or drop off product, becoming really, really more convenient for many people, because you have certain categories of product and you have certain countries where you cannot actually just drop off an iPhone at the door of a consumer, as an example. In the US, you can do that. You can drop something that is like worth $10,000 and they would just leave it in front of the door, but in many countries you can't do that because of theft and just because of regulation. So out-of-home deliveries, and particularly parcel lockers, are very interesting solution that we've been pushing across the globe. We have already more than 10,000 of this type of solutions within the network, and we think that's something that is more sustainable. It allows you also to optimize the deliveries, and it's also more convenient. So that's quite interesting because it combines all of the elements. Another thing that also seems to be in the future, but it's actually already developed in quite some countries, is delivery bots. So we just made an announcement with a company called Cleveron to start to do deliveries. That is more for like small radius and for like single delivery, but that is something also that is a reality. I live in Florida. Well, we actually both live in Miami. It's pure coincidence, but we both live in Miami. And in Miami, you have already companies also using that in the restaurant business that are doing deliveries, and you'll go in the city of in the street of the city, and you'll see like already bots doing deliveries. So this is coming. Also, it's not anymore something of the future. It's something that still requires some regulation and requires some advance around technology, but this is coming for sure. And I think the other thing that is quite interesting is the amount of possibilities you have in terms of vehicles you use. We're doing a lot, for example, and that ties really well into sustainability, cargo bikes, alternative vehicles. So it's not only about now delivering with vans, but it's really delivering with what is the best option in terms of delivery type that you can use in order to reach the consumer, depending on your volume, your product type, because that's really how you optimize. Because at the end of the day, if you deliver one package with a van, even if the van is electric, you actually have a negative impact in terms of, because you're going to create traffic, you're going to create additional movement into a city, and even if you're like carbon neutral, all the rest of the environment you operate into might not be carbon neutral. So you really want to think about, I think again, you were talking about like this optimization is very important to think about it upstream. What is the best vehicle type before I actually think about, oh, well, I want to put electric vehicles, because that's kind of like a secondary step. Do you see it the same way?
Exactly. And so, yeah, it sounds like easy. Okay, let's put electric trucks or vans. But exactly as you mentioned, in our algorithm, we have a lot of conditions, right? So the basic are like, okay, the volume, the weight, but you have a lot more. Maybe you have like really like a heavy product that you cannot put over other product. You need to like build a Tetris, I call it, in the Tetris inside the truck. So you try to optimize each one of the trucks, the vans, or whatever you're using to get the maximum from it. Because if you're going to put a van there, as you mentioned, like with one package, even if it's electric, you're doing bad job in sustainability, right? So, like interesting case, today we are working with a company, and we are routing and doing optimization with helicopters, right? So you need to, like a condition, you need to consider the weather, you need to consider a lot of different stuff. So as you mentioned, it's much more than only a van that you imagine, okay, let's put a van, let's put few packages. So we try to combine different kind of packaging, different kind of vehicles, different cost, different technologies, and putting all in one package, it's really complicated, but you always like get like two equation that you need to solve, right? One is, of course, the cost, maybe it's more than two questions. The other one is the service. So you need to get like an excellent service to be able to deliver time, and of course, the right? So I just was talking with my co-founder here, and I was telling him, it's amazing. So you, like half of the talks today are about the sustainability, right? And we are in last mile, so we can affect it really hard with what we are doing, like from the software side and from all the innovation that DHL are doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So let's maybe jump a bit more into the topic of sustainability. I think it would be great to have your view. So out of like your 1,000 customers, how many of them already have sustainable and environmental friendly solutions? And it's in Latin America. Most of the customers are in Latin America, some in Spain and some in the US.
Yeah, we have in Spain, in the US, in Latam. Really few of them. I'm now talking with we have like SMBs and mid-market and enterprise. I'm talking with the enterprise. And they have like sustainability department, right? But it's really working in different environment. So I'm working with logistics, with operation, and sometimes marketing and business, and I'm trying to, okay, let's talk to these guys, right? Because we are doing really interesting stuff that affects their goals. But it's really hard like to connect all the dots. So that's what we're trying to do. What we invented, for example, we invented our certification. So what we did for the mid-level that don't have like people in charge, so we measure the baseline, what they are doing today, and we are measuring constantly what they are doing with Simply Route as optimization. And if they are getting to the goals that we set with them, so they get certification from Simply Route. So our goal is like that, of course, today it's our own certification. We want that certification to be much more global.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. How many people here do logistics services in your company? Can you raise your hand? Or work in companies that are moving stuff? Okay. How many people actually have like concrete initiative to improve sustainability in your organization? Yeah, very few, right? And I think we start to really see, you know, sustainability I think is an important topic that has been in the agenda for a long time, but you start to really see now companies really making commitments with dates as to a day that they will be, you know, either carbon neutral or they will have reduced X amount of percentage. But the starting point for you to improve is really, first of all, to measure, right? Because if you cannot measure, you cannot improve. And consequently, having like either like software partners that can give you carbon reporting, as an example, in last mile deliveries, or whatever type of transport you do, or even, you know, you can report carbon on buildings, on employees, on travel. I mean, all the dimension is really the starting point. So I think it's quite interesting that you're already offering that. And do you see companies like really moving and becoming more active in this space?
Yeah, for sure. And then they also understand, and it's interesting to know your vision, because they understand that in the near future, they will need to pay, right, more taxes, or they will need to buy carbon. And so they understand it in the future. I think the challenge is to affect the operation of today, right? So because maybe the question is how you manage, because usually when you're in charge of it or it affects you, it will be more costly, right? So how you manage like the equilibrium with the cost and being able to get in charge of the sustainability?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, today, an electric vehicle or sustainable vehicle will be more expensive to buy. But when you look, we are getting to the tipping point where when you look at total cost of ownership of these vehicles, they are now becoming return on investment positive, right? So that is a very good news. However, you still have to pay more upfront because the cost is still higher. Plus you have to invest in infrastructure and so on. And so it's quite interesting because we had actually a conversation just yesterday with our CEO, and you really need to be willing to pay more for a certain period of time until you reach a certain scale, and then you will have a competitive advantage, right? So I think it's an investment that you have to make initially, and then the others will follow, because this is all about scale, right? And once you have scale and once you have adoption, then all the costs will reduce and the access will be easier. But you need big companies, and not that smaller companies cannot do but you need like big buyers to be able to really influence the industry, so that OEMs, the cities, the infrastructure see this as already a big addressable market, so that people start to really put money behind. So I think we are at the point where our CEO said, well, if it's going to cost more, we'll pay for it. We try to recover some of the cost, but we will do it. Of course, all into certain level of investments, per year and so on. But we announced, for example, 7 billion of investments towards this additional cost between now and 2030. So that money is dedicated exactly to that kind of situation where you have like a gap, and you have to invest more. But at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do for the world, and it's also the right thing to do for the business also, because it will become, as you said, regulation is coming, and also the clients you serve, they care about this more and more, right? Like, I think if we ask this room, who would like to have more sustainable solution? Can you raise your hand? It's almost everybody, but not everybody. So I think we have some interesting profiles in the room today. We can chat after. I would be interested to have some perspective on why not. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's the right thing to do. And I think the businesses, they have to invest into this. In terms of software, what else can you do? What is the next level of things you can be doing in helping companies to get there?
There's so many things that we are doing, we can do. There's not enough time, right? So we're still a scale up, so we are scaling. We are opening more countries, but we have a lot of new technology that we can do. So, but mainly, I think it's all about, like, in our world, it's like putting intelligence in the chain where we found. So today it's a last mile, but we also have some initiative in the first mile, warehouse. We have really good partners as a startup, so we think it's about a community, right? So building, in our case, really smart solution, but connecting to different kind of solution to be able to build, hopefully, like an end-to-end solution in a smart way.
Great. I think we're almost on time, so I'll make a closing. I think I'll make a closing statement, and then it would be great, Ariel, also for you to give us also your closing view. I think when you think about like last mile deliveries and sustainable last mile deliveries, oftentimes we think about the transport part of it, and the most common thought is the electrification of the fleet. However, there is a lot that can be done. Route optimization is big. Vehicle optimization is big. Packaging optimization has a huge impact as to how you can really improve. So I think whoever has to take decisions or think about this, you really have to look at it holistically, and from an upstream perspective, not only on the delivery itself and the execution, but really all the planning that comes with it, in order to be really able to be actually offering something sustainable. So I think that would be my closing thought. Eyal?
No, thank you so much. I think it's great conversation. And as you mentioned many times, in our world, it's optimization, right? So I think I agree with you. We can optimize today route, but in the future, in the near future, and we need to understand where we can put more intelligence in our case and more optimization, and combine both sides, like business and sustainability. It should be combined, and it's best for all of us.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I don't know if we have time for one question or two, or we are...
No, you're out of time, unfortunately. I know I'm the bearer of bad news. I feel awful. Ladies and gentlemen,
no worries, but we'll be here. We'll be here for anybody that wants to
ask. A big round of applause to Nabil Malouli and Eyal Schatz. Guys, thank you very much.